Worlds to clinch the first ever team silver medal in World Championships for the U.S.? Well, Bella Caroli does. Can Caroli's star pupil continue her streak that started when she turned the gymnastic world upside down with her powerful tumbling? Well, she'll have to be right on the mark tonight because Shannon Miller of Edmond, Oklahoma is hot on her trail. Miller's coach, Steve Nuno, says it's time for Shannon to take her turn at the top.
This year, we should be winning, and she wants to win. We've been the person without the pressure. If you're going into the Olympic Games, you're not going to win unless you've won something. You know, and she's won a number of international competitions, and as I said before, I think she's very well respected on the whole international scene. Unfortunately, she hasn't won a particular meet in America. I mean, a lot of invitationals, but not one of the big USGF sanctioned competitions, international meets. So it's our turn. She's got to earn it. She knows it, and we're ready for it.
For the men, UCLA's Scott Keswick will perform tonight. Keswick, with his 10th place all-around finish at the World Championships, led the U.S. men to 5th place, the best finish in the last 8 years. Also, Jared Hanks is here to compete. This year's American Cup champion, and he's on quite a roll, moving up from an alternate's position on the U.S. team to #1 in less than 1 year. The strongest competition from the international scene should come from this young man, 18-year-old Russian strongman Dmitry Karbonyenko. There's no doubt he can certainly fill the shoes of the former Russian greats. It's all tonight from Tallahassee as ESPN, the Total Sports Network, presents the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs Gymnastics Championships. Welcome to the Leon County Civic Center here in Tallahassee, Florida, for the 10th annual McDonald's International Mixed Pairs Gymnastics Competition. And hello everyone, I'm Bart Connor, and we're glad you've joined us here on ESPN. This is 1992. It's a very special year for the sport of gymnastics. It's an Olympic year, and this is our first opportunity to see many of the international stars. Now, today's competition is an unusual format, and it's one of the few times we see the men and women paired together as a mixed pairs team. And joining me, as always, is Olympic medalist Kathy Johnson. And Kathy, this kind of format really opens the door for a competition within a competition.
Well, Bart, since the United States is the host country, they have 4 pairs competing in the first round, but only 2 of those pairs can advance into the second round, and only 1 pair into the third and final round. So that puts a lot of pressure on the Americans just to continue in the competition.
Speaking of the Americans, obviously you have to pick people like Jared Hanks and Kim Zemeskal as one of the top favorites.
Well, Kim is the reigning world all-around champion, and both she and Jared are the American Cup champions, so they're certainly the team to beat. But as you mentioned, this format is very unique, and it could benefit the other pairs. The team of Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick should open very strongly. Scott starts on the still rings, where he scored a perfect 10 in his last competition and was a world championship finalist. Shannon Miller was the silver medalist at the World Championships on the uneven bars, and that's where she starts.
Perhaps the strongest competition should come from the former Soviet Union. You know, 2 months ago they were the Soviet Union. 2 weeks ago they were the Commonwealth of Independent States, and today they're the Community of Independent States. Regardless of what you call them, and actually the athletes here will call them Russians because they're from the Republic of Russia, they're still among the favorites.
Bart, we've said the Americans are the favorites, but there's no reason in the world why this Russian team cannot win this competition. Dmitry Karbonyenko is probably the best gymnast in the competition, and his teammate Svetlana Kozlova carries on a long former Soviet Union tradition of excellence.
Well, it's the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs, and the competition in round 1 will start in a moment.
From the Community of Independent States, Svetlana Kozlova and Dmitry.
The McDonald's International Mixed Pairs Gymnastics Championship is brought to you by McDonald's. What you want is what you get at McDonald's today. We'll be back with the first round of competition here from Tallahassee. Welcome back to the Tallahassee Civic Center for the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs Gymnastics Competition. Bart Connor along with Kathy Johnson. Let's take a quick look at the competition format because it is a little complicated. The gymnasts compete as a pair. Now, they may represent different countries, and we'll explain that as we go along. There are 3 rounds of competition. 15 pairs compete in the first round. The top 8 advance to the second round, and the top 3 advance to the final round. Now, only 2 USA pairs are allowed to advance to the second round, and only 1 USA pair in the final round. In addition, all scores count for each round, and the scores will be added together for a running total. In each round, the gymnast must utilize a different event. No one event may be performed twice. Men may only vault in the first round, and women may only vault in round number 2. Well, and now that we've probably thoroughly confused everyone with these rules, let's get on with the competition. The first mixed pair to compete is Carrie Strug and Trent Demas from the United States. Now, as this format goes, we mentioned that they can't really have a mediocre performance in the first round, or they may not even make it to the second round. This could be a strong performance for both Carrie and Trent. They're picking their best events.
I really think that if they can hit these first 2 events, that we could be in for a surprise. Carrie is very dynamic on this event. However, she had little trouble with it during the American Cup. And as she admits to herself, she gets very, very nervous in competition, so maybe a good performance here will give her the confidence she needs. Now, she warmed up only a full twisting double back, where she normally does a whip back pass here. Let's see what she does. Full twisting double back, pike position, very nicely done.
She really has learned a lot about selling her performance. She's improved a great deal over this past year, and this is just her first year on the national team.
Of course, Carrie was a member of that silver medal winning team at the World Championships. Here's her middle tumbling run. It's a whip back through to a double back. There's the whip. Again, very nicely done. She's really been working hard on those landings. Sometimes she has a little bit of trouble bouncing out of them.
Carrie's family actually lives in Tucson, where her dad is a heart surgeon. She's training now in Houston with Bella. She's been there for the last couple of years.
She's planning to dismount with a full twisting double back. Very difficult at the end of the routine. That's great. That's where she had the trouble at the American Cup. And I know she is pleased. And as I said, she really needs a confidence boost, because she said sometimes it's a little intimidating training with the world champion, Kim Zmeskal, and she needs a little more confidence.
Big finish on the full twisting double back for Carrie Strug. That's the kind of difficulty it takes to win a major international event.
Let's take a look at her full twisting double back. Now this one is in piked position. She'll lay out the first somersault. There's the full twist, pulls it into a nice pike position, and spots the floor for the landing.
She has a tendency often to overdo things. She really is very springy.
Here's her final tumbling run, and it was a good one. You know she was pleased with that landing.
Now, as we wait on the score for Carrie Strug, we move over to Trent Demas, who has selected his best event, the horizontal bar. But as Trent said the other day, he's either hot or cold on the high bar, isn't he?
He said he would either score a 10 or a 7. I think he'll probably be somewhere in between, but he truly loves to go all out on this event.
Trent has 3 very big release moves. The first one will be a double backflip over the bar, and I don't think anyone in the world does it quite as well as Trent. Here it comes. It's called a Kovacs. Perfect! Now here comes a combination, a reverse heck to a Ginger. Oh, what a shame. He just pitched it out too far, didn't he?
As we said right before he went, he loves to go all out. He wasn't playing it safe, coming in close to the bar to make sure he grasped. He wanted to try and be the perfect distance from it. It's just a tiny bit too far out.
Let's take a look at what happens. This is the reverse hack to the Ginger.
Now right here, he just flings it out a little bit too far, and if his arms were a little bit longer, he might have had it. You can really tell he was going for it, too, because he over-rotated as he was headed toward the mat. scary fall.
Now the judges will deduct a half a point from his score, and then he needs to complete the rest of the exercise from the point where he fell off. All Trent has left to do in the performance is this requirement here. This is called the Eagle Giant Swing. And he has a huge triple back, one of the best in the world.
Way up above the bar. Very nicely done. What a shame. 0.5 of a point right off the top for the fall. That will certainly hurt this team.
For that team, no question about it. Trent, by the way, was 4th in the USA's back in 1990. He was 11th, had a lot of problems last year. He's back on a rise, but what happened here, Kathy?
As I said, he flung it out just a little bit too far. I think he thought he had it. Just couldn't quite get a grasp.
The best part of the routine was this release move here.
That is gorgeous. Now that's the perfect distance away from the bar. The arms are not bent, they're outstretched, and he just gets his hands on the bar.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we be moving on to our next pair.
So we wait for the score for Carrie Strug. Obviously, her score will be quite high. Trent Demas will be considerably lower. So a 9.85 for Carrie Strug. Trent Demas gets a 9.25. 19.1 is their effort. The first round will continue when we come back. Tallahassee, our gymnastics competition continues in the first round. We're ready now to see the American pair of Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick. Shannon Miller there from Edmond, Oklahoma, getting ready to perform on perhaps one of her best events, the uneven bars.
She won a silver medal at the World Championships on this event. She was also 6th in the all-around and won a silver medal as part of that fantastic team in Indianapolis.
And by the way, a quick happy birthday to Shannon. She turns 15 years old today.
Shannon has 2 release moves in this routine. The first one's coming up right here to Ginger. Very nicely done. Her second release move is a reverse hecht. And she has a huge dismount, a full twisting double back right there. Ooh, just a little hop on the landing. It's really the only deduction of significance, is that little hop on the landing. It's a very difficult routine. 2 big release moves, and of course the dismount.
Kathy, you mentioned that Shannon has grown a couple of inches. I think her swing is a little longer and a little more fluid just because of that.
You can see what the judges are looking for on the release moves. Their shoulders should be at least level with the bar as they make the regress. She has plenty of amplitude. Here's that dismount. It's 2 flips, 1 twist. There's the full twist. And as I said, just that little hop on the landing.
Tonight's competition on men's still rings.
So as we wait the score for Shannon Miller on her uneven bars. Shannon, by the way, scored 2 perfect 10s in Europe a couple of months ago at the Arthur Gonder Invitational and the Swiss Cup. Now this is her pair partner, Scott Keswick from UCLA. Scott has also selected his best event to open up the competition on. This is the still rings. He's 3-time national champion on this event. And he combines all the things the judges are looking for. Strength, swing, and a big dismount.
And he combines them so well.
The trick, of course, is to keep the rings as steady as possible. There's an inverted iron cross. Here comes a good combination. This is a double front within the rings and a back uprise to handstand. Well done. Here comes a spectacular dismount.
Oh, beautiful. Double twisting, double back. Very few gymnasts can even do that dismount, much less do it that well.
By the way, this team, Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick in 1991.
So let's take a look one more time at Scott Keswick. This is the double front within the rings. A move invented by a Japanese guy named Yamawaki. And the dismount is 2 flips and 2 twists And it's incredible that he keeps the form that he does. And what a landing.
Well, this shows why he was a World Championship finalist on this event. Look from this angle, you can see exactly all the flipping, all the twisting. It's just amazing.
So we wait for the score for Scott Keswick. There's Shannon Miller. She knows they've gotten off to a good start. That's a pretty impressive pair there. Two young gymnasts on the national team on the rise. Shannon Miller gets a 9.925 for her work on the uneven bars, and the score for Scott Keswick is a 9.85. So with a 19.775, they're our leaders in round one here in Tallahassee. We'll be back. And welcome back once again to Tallahassee at the Civic Center. It's the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs Gymnastics Competition. We are halfway through the first round of competition here. Getting ready now for the team from the former Soviet Union, the Russian Republic performers. Svetlana Kozlova, a 17-year-old from St. Petersburg, and her teammate, Dmitry Karbonenko, who is from Kaliningrad, now training in Moscow.
Svetlana is ranked 8 on her national team. This is her first time to the United States.
She placed second in the all-around in the recent American Cup. This is one of her better events, the uneven bars. By the way, she's the junior European champion in the all-around back in '89.
It's her first release move. Nice high Ginger. She has tiny little form breaks throughout the routine. You'll notice sometimes her toes just aren't quite completely pointed. Here's her second, a reverse hex. Here's her dismount. It's a double layout. And she cranks it. Unfortunately, she bends her legs just a little bit in the air. Had to hop on the landing. Those will all be small deductions.
This is Svetlana's very first time to the United States.
We'll take a look at this dismount. It's a double layout. Now you'll see right here she bends her legs in the middle of the somersault. That will be a slight deduction, and so will that step. We talk about deductions all the time. Errors like that cost anywhere from a half a tenth of a point to a tenth, and if they're severe, 2 to 3/10 of a point.
Her teammate, also a Russian, Dmitry Karbonenko. And this guy has been a pleasure to get to know over the last few days. He's a real clown, one of the more outgoing Russian athletes we've ever met. By the way, the score for Kozlova on the bars, a 9.85. Wait till you see this tumbling. At 150 pounds and 5'7", this is a huge gymnast. And watch his power.
Beautiful full twisting double back in laid out position and done with ease.
Excellent combination of back tumbling to front tumbling. Once again, the gymnasts show an exercise that is primarily tumbling, but they have to show a balance move and a strength move. The strength move there was the press to handstand. He really is unusual in that he is 150 pounds, and it looks like he's about 180. I mean, this guy is gigantic.
Speaking of gigantic, there's a huge dismount coming up. It's another full twisting double back in an open tuck position. Very difficult. And again, he does all of these skills so easily.
Now the Russian pair need a 9.95 average to take the lead. No, with his 9.95, they could take the lead. His first tumbling pass, once again, Kathy, is really spectacular.
Watch the beautiful laid out position that he maintains throughout this skill. There's the full twist right there, and he opens up and just floats down for a very nice landing.
How do they do that so easily? I guess it's a combination.
I think if we knew that part, we'd probably still be competing.
It's both power and technique, certainly. Wow.
all he has is those little hops on the landing. And of course, those will be probably a 1/10 of a point. And it all depends because they're so difficult. You might only take 1/2 of a point.
It appears to be a conference. The men are discussing the score for Karbanyenko as Kozlova anxiously awaits. They've had a great time. They've been in Florida at the American Cup, and then they went to Disney World and spent the afternoon there. And it's been a terrific competition and a terrific chance for all of the teammates to get together and get to know each other.
I'm sure what the dilemma is here. You notice he took those hops on the landing, but they were on extremely difficult tumbling passes. So I'm sure there's some discussion as to what to do about the score.
It appears they've come up with an average of 9.75.
For Dmitry Karbanyenko of the Community of Independent States on floor exercise at 9.75.
You add that to the 9.85 of Kozlova, and their score, 19.6, puts them in second place currently. So we'll be back with more gymnastics as Kim Zemeskal of the U.S. is up next. Don't go away. Champion, and she's such a treat to watch, especially here on the floor where she's the bronze medalist at the World Championships.
She has entertained us with this very floor routine for a couple of years now. Always a crowd favorite. And of course, she's now in the history books, the first American ever to win the all-around at the World Championships. And with that comes some added pressure because, as she said, she feels like everybody's watching her now. It's her first tumbling pass. It's a whip back through to a full twisting double back.
Besides being a spectacular tumbler, she really is a good performer. She's really learned how to sell this exercise, hasn't she?
Certainly has. And it's choreographed well to show off what she can do. And this is a great pass. It's her trademark. 3 whip backs, count them. 1, 2, 3, all the way through to a double back.
Kim has been working on upgrading her level of difficulty, and she added at the recent American Cup a full twisting double for a dismount. You think she's going to try it today, Kathy?
I don't know. I didn't think she'd try it there because she didn't need to do it to win, and it showed a lot of guts and a lot of courage to put it in because she needs it for the upcoming World Championships. Let's see what she does. Sure looks like it. She's going for it. Whoa! Just pulled it around. That's tough. It's nice to see because it didn't come easily. She worked really hard to do that. Here's the first pass. It's a whip back that she does so well right there. Through to a full twisting double back in pike position.
The only American ever to win the gold medal in the all-around at a World Championships.
And everybody's favorite pass. A lot of energy in this run.
9 years of gymnastics, and she's been very successful. Kim Zemeskal.
One thing that she really has worked so hard on is the landing. And you can see here, she really works for this. She has to pull it in such a tight pike, right there, and just gets it around. That's a sign of a champion.
Kim's partner this evening in our 1992 McDonald's International.
So Kim Zemeskal pushing herself, adding the difficulty and scoring a 9.9 in floor exercise. Her partner, Jared Hanks, out of the University of Oklahoma and the 1992 American Cup champion now, if he can score better than a 9.9, they can take the lead over Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick.
Jared has certainly been inspired over the last year. He's really on a roll. He won the Winter Nationals and then the American Cup.
This combination coming up right here is unbelievable. Watch this, right up to a plunge and press to a handstand.
The judges are always looking for elements of originality. That's certainly one of them.
Jared has been one of those gymnasts for many years that we have said if he could just apply himself and get a little more consistent, he'll be the #1 gymnast in America. Well, it started to happen just several months ago, and at the recent Winter Nationals, he was first place in the all-around. That's the re-ranking of the national team, so he is the leader of the U.S. men's team that is currently 5th in the world.
And he ends with a full twisting double back.
From the United States, Jared Hanks.
Little pressure on Jared Hanks because his teammate Kim Zmeskal, she pushed herself to end with a double back with a full twist. And let's take a look once again at this combination on the floor. Jared's tumbling is terrific, but this is an original combination from a break-dancing position. He cranks this up right to a planche. It's essentially like doing a push-up without your feet on the ground. Presses up to a handstand.
He ended with a full twisting double back in tucked position. And like Kim, you could see he had to work for this. Didn't come that easy. Just that one little step off to the side.
So a very strong effort for the pair of Zmeskal and Hanks. They seem pretty relieved. If he scores a 9.7, they will qualify to the second round. Keep in mind that only 2 American pairs out of this round will go on. 9.7 is the score for Jared Hanks. So along with a 9.9 for Kim Zmeskal, a 19.6, and they will move on to the second round of competition here from Tallahassee. We'll be back. And welcome back once again to the Civic Center here in Tallahassee. Bart Connor along with Kathy Johnson. Let's take a look at our current standings after the first round. Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick hold the lead over the Chinese pair. Kim Zmeskal and Jared Hanks are tied with the Russians, and you'll notice there that Wendy Bruce and Chris Waller will not advance because they're the 3rd American pair. Only 2 will advance, and these are the rest of the teams that will go on to round 2. Now, world-class gymnastics is not new to Tallahassee. 1980 Olympian Ron Gallimore lives here. Let's spend some time getting to know Tallahassee's favorite son. 6 years ago, after an unsuccessful stint in Hollywood, Ron Gallimore moved back to his home in Tallahassee to fulfill a dream of his own, to produce gymnastic champions. Gallimore's place in sports history was all but guaranteed by a man he really never got to know. His father, Willie Gallimore of the Chicago Bears, died in a tragic car accident when Ron was just 6 years old.
When I was young, and when he died, I knew he was a professional football player. I watched him on TV. I wouldn't go to the games. I go to 1 or 2 games. I didn't want to freeze in Soldier Field. After we lost him, and I got a little older, and especially when I got in gymnastics and started to travel a little bit, I started meeting people that knew him and would recognize the name, and they would tell me stories and tell me even more background about him, and I realized just who the guy was and the impact that he had on the country. And I became a little jealous in some ways that a lot of them had a chance to spend more time than he did. You know, I became a little sad that I didn't have an opportunity to have the father-son talks that a lot of fathers have with their sons and things of that nature. And but I was happy, at least, that all the things that were said were positive and good about him. And all I wanted to do from my gymnastics career is be able to have people say the same kind of things about me.
And they did say great things about Ron Gallimore. As a leader of the Iowa State gymnastics team, Gallimore became the first gymnast in NCAA history to score a perfect 10. He did it on the vault.
It was a time when they didn't give 10s. You know, it was a time when they didn't give it. So I thought, well, they're not going to give it. And when I finally landed it, and I walked off, and it was a stuck vault for me. And it was a good vault, as good as any of them. I didn't think that I'd get it. And so I walked off and went, yeah, okay. And they flashed it. I was blown away. You know, I couldn't believe it. And it was fun.
But the fun faded quickly as the reality of the 1980 U.S.-led Olympic boycott took its toll on the normally optimistic Gallimore.
I made the team, and I realized what had been taken away from me. The recognition of making the Olympic team and being the first black wasn't given in the way that it would have been if I competed in the Olympics. From that day on, I became very sad, you know, because I had lived for years, you know, jumped out of bed, done an extra 50 sit-ups, done all the extra stuff, in order to try and make the team, and it took me about 5 years to pick myself up and not feel sorry for myself and say that if I'm capable of accomplishing big things, then I just need to refocus my energy and get another goal and put it in there again, and something good will happen. And first goal that I had was coming back home and opening up a gymnastics school.
So Ron Gallimore, now back to his roots here in Tallahassee, surely hopes to produce champions, but he has a more important goal in mind, to produce fine young men and women.
I had a coach that coached me down in Fort Lauderdale named Jack Miles, and we were taking a trip, and this is when I was about 13, 14 years old. And we were taking a trip down to the Keys, and he said, "Ron, come up," and he sent me up to the front of the van, and he wrote on a little piece of paper, and he gave it to me, and I looked at it, and it said, "The blood of kings flow through your veins." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" So he goes, "You'll know someday." And after I made the Olympic team, that night, I left the arena and went back to my hotel room, and I picked the phone, the message light was flashing, and I asked him, I said, "Well, do I have a message?" "Yeah, there's a strange message here. It didn't leave a name of the guy, anything. The only message is, the blood of kings flow through your veins." And it brought tears to my eyes, and I called him up, and he said, "Yeah, it was great," you know, and then I kind of knew a little bit more what he was talking about.
Well, Kathy, many gymnasts feel sure that no one was more affected by the '80 Olympic boycott than Ron Gallimore.
We all thought Ron would, without a doubt, win a gold medal on the vault, and to this day, I can't think of anyone who could have out-vaulted him in 1980.
Well, round two will be up next. When we come back, don't go away. It's the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs from Tallahassee. Stay with us. Tallahassee once again. Let's just update you on the scores after the first round. Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick hold the lead over the Chinese team. Zemeskel and Hanks are tied with the Russians for third. Wendy Bruce and Chris Waller will not advance to the second round because of the rules, and that rounds out the field of competitors advancing to the second round of competition.
In round two, a lot of the women
now that brings up the team from Russia, and this young lady is Svetlana Kozlova. She's 17 years old, and it's interesting to me that a couple of years ago she was from the Soviet Union and her city was Leningrad. Now she's from the Community of Independent States and her city is called St. Petersburg. I wonder how a 17-year-old can deal with all these changing political elements.
Must be difficult, just like this vault. I don't know how she deals with this. I've been waiting all night to see it. It's a double twisting your Yarchenko. Most of the gymnasts are doing full twists, and this is just incredible.
What's ironic to me is the judging system. Women's scoring says that a double twisting Yarchenko and a full twisting Yarchenko are worth the same points. I think in many ways a lot of gymnastics judging needs to be revamped because the rules are not up to date with the level of gymnastics that we're seeing these days.
You just read my mind. It's absolutely ridiculous that they can even score near the same.
She goes, Kozlova.
Oh, no! She usually does that so well.
Svetlana Kozlova.
To do this vault, it takes precise timing. You've got to get right up on top of the horse in order to push off. Let's see what
A
happened.
combined score for Henrietta Anodi and Bruno Koster. From 2 rounds of competition, they have a team.
She was a little bit short on the horse, couldn't snap her legs down into that somersault, so of course she lacked rotation.
Here's a great angle to see the hand placement on the horse, and that is a spring-loaded horse.
You can see she's kind of crunched in, and her shoulders were forward of her hands, not in a good position to really block off the horse.
It's interesting, the other day in the American Cup competition, she munched her first vault like that in the preliminaries and then went on to nail her second one. You can see by her face, perhaps she's planning to do that again.
It's not a situation you like to be in. It puts a lot of pressure on the second vault.
But 9-1-5 was the score for her first vault.
Fortunately, in women's gymnastics, you have 2 chances. There it is. Not quite as well done as in the American Cup, but look at the relief on her face. She was glad to get that one around.
Her face tells the story. I knew I could do that. Let's take a look at it one more time, Kathy.
I can't emphasize enough how difficult this vault is. The placement on the horse, much better. You can see her shoulders were a little bit more in line. She was able to push off. We'll see it better from this shot right here. A little more on top, shoulders a little bit straighter angle. She was able to push up a little more, get that rotation, and boy, get those 2 twists around.
Now Kozlova's teammate here in the mixed pairs competition is Dmitry Karbonyenko. He's 18 years old, also a Russian, and as we saw him in the floor exercise, he's incredibly powerful, and he has a sequence in this parallel bar routine that only a handful of people in the world would even dare do. Look at the size of this guy's arms. Is that a pair of guns or what? I think he tripped over the springboard stepping up to the parallel bars.
As you mentioned, this combination is just outstanding. Very difficult.
Okay, here comes his combination. These moves are called Healy twirls. He does 2, and watch what comes now. 1 3/4 front flip.
And he moves right out of it. It's a hard enough skill to do just by itself.
Very aggressive on these back tosses. All he has left is a dismount. Oh no!
That's going to cost him. And I was just thinking to myself, I was hoping the judges were going to finally give him the score that he deserves on this event. I think he was a little underscored at the American Cup. Unfortunately, now he's given them the opportunity to take those 1/10 of a point off.
Let's take a look at how complex this sequence is. From the Healy twirl, that's a front 1 3/4. He lands on his upper arms. Obviously, you can see why he wears those pads on his biceps. The dismount is the pike double back, and he just pulls it around too far.
You can see he gets his feet too far underneath. His hips are back, and he stumbles back, takes those 2 steps.
The judges deduct 1/10 of a point for every step that you take on a landing, and there were sort of 2.5 steps there, so you can expect the score to be in the 9-7 range. Certainly shouldn't be
exactly what
much
happened
higher.
on the floor exercise. Very difficult routine, but unfortunately took those steps.
So the score for Kozlova was a 9.825 on her second vault, a huge improvement over the 9.15 on her first vault. 9.75 for Dmitry Karbonyenko, so a pretty good score there. So they're still in the hunt.
Certainly good scores, but they have definitely left some room at the top for the final pairs coming up.
So many great Soviet champions like Ludmila Tereshcheva and Olga Korbut. Kozlova trying to make her mark on international gymnastics. So there they have it, 39.175 for the Russian pair. Now we move over to the vault. This is Li Yifeng. You saw her on the uneven parallel bars get a 9.9 in the first round. Here's her vault.
It's a Yurchenko vault as well, only this time with a full twist. Laid out. Nice position in the air, but unfortunate landing. Pretty big step. There will be a significant deduction.
This is her 3rd year on the national team in China. She was 14th in the all-around at the 1991 World Championships.
You can see here she gets a nice push off, good laid out position, takes it plenty far back from the horse, but a large step on the end. See, this is what we really needed to see from Kozlova. See how her shoulders are right above her hands in a perfect position to push off the horse. You can't have that angle too great. Makes it too difficult to push.
Once again, in women's gymnastics competition, they get to do 2 vaults and take the best of the 2 scores.
And you know what's going through her mind right now. She's got to try to stick the landing.
9.75, a pretty good score. Obviously, leaving some room at the top if she were able to nail this next one. What do you think she's going to try to do to improve the landing on that vault?
She needs to float the vault upward so it almost stalls in the air so it can drop in for a perfect landing. As I said, on the first vault, she got quite a bit of distance and probably a little bit too much. She needs to take it up right here. Oh. Well, she got a kick out of that one. I'm not sure exactly why.
Me neither. Actually, it looked like she did what she had planned to do. She was hanging up in the air a little bit more.
I don't know.
Hard to explain what happened there. Maybe we can see it better here.
It looked like it was going to be a little better, Bart. I thought she might be able to come up with a better landing. She obviously knew better than I. Good push, good position, and right here she just decided to take a run.
Let's look at the hand placement.
Oh, on the short end of the horse. A little bit crunched in. You can see her fingers tucked under, actually. So she must have known right then that it was not going to be as good as the first one.
Good point. That's perhaps why she bailed on the landing. She kind of munched in there on the pre-flight of that fall. That's a terrific angle, that point of view camera. Well done. All right, now over to the pommel horse. This is her teammate, Nong Xiang. He got a 9.75 on his first event here, the parallel bars. He competed in the Goodwill Games a couple of years ago in Seattle, so he's been to the United States before.
And the Chinese are typically so good on this event, Bart. Usually show great amplitude, impeccable form.
The judges require the gymnast to touch all 3 sections of the pommel horse. You notice he works on the end, through the middle, and back to the end. What beautiful body line. Very complex sequence as he travels across the horse. In the flare, that's the Thomas flare invented by Kurt Thomas. And he works up to the pommels. A little bit low on those scissors, but a strong finish for Nong Xiang.
from China.
Once again, we can take a look at the flares as he travels across the horse. Notice the tremendous elevation above the leather. You'll see he doesn't even work up to the pommels until he's ready to break into his single leg work, the scissors. The dismount was quite good as well. From the flares, he cranks it up to a handstand and off. Actually not one of the more difficult dismounts, but most of his difficulty was packed in the early part of the routine. He certainly fulfilled all the requirements, the elements the judges are looking for. So the 9.75 for the smiling Li Yifang to follow up on her 9.9 on the uneven bars. And Nong Xiang waiting on his score from the pommel horse.
It's nice to see them having some fun. This really is a fun event for them. An opportunity to break away from the traditional competition of competing all 4 events and only for their individual score.
And as you mentioned, everyone is specializing on their best events, so it's a little more relaxed, a little less pressure. 9.75 is the score for Nong Xiang, so there is their team score, 39.15. And we'll be back with more gymnastics here in Tallahassee right after this. Kim Zemeskel to perform here in the second round of the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs. And the crowd is getting heated up because they've seen Kim Zemeskel perform this vault and score a 10 in the recent World Championships. She is really dynamite here.
The most important thing that Kim usually does, stick the landing. Let's see if she can do it here. She can really cover that up. She gets her arms up fast. Very important, saving those tiny little tenths of a point.
Bella Caroli, the Romanian cowboy, trying to encourage Kim to get a little softer on that landing.
The nice part of her vault, she flares after the twist, opens up her arms. Very nice position. And she wanted to stick that.
Here's a good look at that spring-loaded horse.
Good angle onto the horse. Nice block off. Here you can really see if the gymnast keeps their legs together, just slightly apart. The judges will hardly be able to see that, though, from their point of view.
Well, that little hop cost her 5/100ths of a point. A 9.95 is the score for Kim Zemeskel, and we know she can do better.
They have set her up for a 10. We could possibly see it here. If she sticks the vault, as she did at the World Championships, it could happen right here.
The trick is to be explosive and yet to be soft on the landing.
Oh! Almost identical to the first vault. Same little hop, and she knows it. Hard to be disappointed with a 9.95, though.
Well, she got the customary pat on the back from Bella Caroli, but not the bear hug. He wasn't completely satisfied.
I think he really wanted to see the stuck landing. He wanted to see the 10. As I said, almost identical to that first vault.
Well, the judges saw it that way. The score, a 9.95 for the second vault as well. So now we move over to Jared Hanks, this year's American Cup champion, Nissen Award winner, leader of the University of Oklahoma men's team to their NCAA team title this past year.
And now the #1 ranked gymnast in the country for the men's team, leading up to Barcelona.
Jared has a strong ring routine here, and he opens up with a very impressive move. He's going to swing up and freeze the position in what we call a Maltese cross. Watch this. Boom, there it is. Straight arm, straight leg, press to handstand. Notice Jared fighting to keep the ring still.
Remember when we saw Scott Keswick, how still he kept the rings and the control that he showed.
There's another good look at the Maltese cross. Here comes a dismount.
Oh, again, fighting for those landings. Almost on both counts, both Kim and Jared almost came up with a stuck landing.
Well, if Jared Hanks gets a 9.65, their team will take the lead. The Zmeskal-Hanks team. Here's an interesting angle of the dismount.
Again, you can see how the gymnast will spot the floor in order to orient himself for a good landing. You can see him looking over his shoulder, finding the floor, and dropping it in.
Jared has been complaining about sore knees, and you can see he lands a little gingerly. And as you mentioned, the stuck landing is just about everything in gymnastics these days, especially at this top world-class level. Looks like Kim's a little more concerned about his score than he is. She knows she turned in her 9.95. Just another day at the office for the world all-aroround champion from Houston, Texas. 9.6 is a score for Jared Hanks. So a 39.15 is their effort. So that ties them for second place with the Chinese pair. Now the competition will continue in round 2. Our leaders Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick will be up when we return. And welcome back once again to Tallahassee. The competition continues in the second round. We're moving over to the vault now, where Shannon Miller from Edmond, Oklahoma, the birthday girl, turns 15 years old today, is getting ready to perform. And you see there a 9.69 average with Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick as teammates, would edge out Zmeskal and Hanks and move Miller and Keswick into the final round. Only one American pair will go to the final round.
This is a terrific vault. Yurchenko laid out with a full twist. She came up with the landing Kim wanted.
When we talked to her yesterday, she said, I really need to work more on sticking landings, and her coach, Steve Nuno, obviously pleased with that.
This is a terrific vault for Shannon. Good approach, good position in the air, great landing. Not quite as high as Kim on the full twist, but she did the most important part of the vault, and that was the landing. You could see her arms were a little bit bent as she made contact with the horse, and that's why she lacked a little height in the air. Right there. Maybe the next one she can get it up a little bit higher and repeat that landing.
Well, Shannon Miller has been spending a lot of time working on vaulting, and 9.95 is her score. So as you can see, she's improved a great deal. She was a finalist at the 91 World Championships. In every event, she placed 6th in the vault. Maybe she can even do it a little better.
Oh! Shannon Miller from the United States. That's okay. She's thinking to herself, she's still got the 9.95. She was trying to make corrections in the air and drop it in and stick the landing again. Just a little short.
Okay, let's get ready to start 25.
The approach was just about the same. Arms still a little bit bent on the horse, a little forward on the short end of the horse, so she didn't quite get the rotation or the height she needed.
So Shannon obviously will take the best of the two vaults, as they do in women's gymnastics. So the second score will not be the 9.95 that she got on the first. So that will be her effort. And Scott Keswick is now ready to go. He needs a 9.45. If he scores 9.45 or better, The Shannon Miller-Scott Keswick pair will move on to the final round and edge out Kim Zmeskal and Jared Hanks. This is a strong event for Scott. Very aggressive. I like his style because he's assertive. He really powers through the routine. It's a big move, front 1 3/4, and a beautiful transition. Straddle cut to an L. That's the best I've ever seen him do that.
There's a pike double back dismount coming up that he really needs to try and stick that landing. Oh, one little hop. Not bad.
Strong effort for Scott Keswick, and there's no question that he will get more than the 9.45 that he needed. So the pair of Scott Keswick and Shannon Miller will go to the finals, edging out Kim Zmeskal, the American Cup champion, and her teammate Jared Hanks, also the American Cup champion. And what a sequence this was here. Scott shows a beautiful 1 3/4 front, back upright straddle cut, and look at the body line in that L position. Very clean form. A little relief on the face of Shannon Miller. She knows that they are going to the finals. So the score for Scott Keswick is a 9.7 to go with the 9.95 of Shannon Miller. 39.425. That'll put them in first place as we go to the final round. We'll be back with more gymnastics right after this. Welcome back inside the Tallahassee Civic Center. After 2 rounds, these are our leaders. Shannon Miller, Scott Keswick over the Russian pair Kozlova and Karbanyenko, and Li Yifang and Nong Xiang of China are in 3rd place. Bart Connor along with Kathy Johnson here. And Kathy, as we go into the final round, these gymnasts are on some pretty risky events.
I think it's going to be a very nerve-wracking final rotation. Li Yifang and Svetlana Kozlova have both chosen the balance beam as their final performance. And Shannon Miller had a disastrous floor exercise routine at the American Cup, but her coach feels it's time to redeem herself right now, so that's where she'll perform.
Well, she's the birthday girl. Maybe she'll get her birthday present early. It's Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick coming up in the final round when we come back here to Tallahassee in the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs.
Gentlemen, we're into our gold medal.
Back once again for the final rotation here in the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs. The final pairs are Li Yifang from China along with Nong Xiang. They will be the first to go. They're currently in 3rd place.
In 3rd position,
the Americans are in 1st and the Russians are in 2nd. Li Yifang in her first effort got a 9.9 on the bars and a 9.75 on her second rotation, the vault. And there's a lot of pressure on the balance beam now, Kathy.
And she is certainly a pleasure to watch on this event. The Chinese are typically known for their choreography on the balance beam, extreme flexibility. Nice back handspring layout step out. You can see she has slight little balance breaks. Two layout step outs. Very nicely done. Great angle to see exactly how straight she was with the balance beam, keeping her shoulders and her hips square.
No stranger to international competition. In 1990, she was 2nd all around in the Asian Games. Oh.
Very similar to that Healy spin we saw on the parallel bars.
Boy, you got to hit that just right.
Here comes her dismount. Very nice exercise so far. Round off double back. Oh, she just pulls it around. Comes up with a great landing. Very nice routine, particularly in a pressure situation.
Let's take an unusual angle to see this Very difficult acrobatic pass.
You can really see how narrow that balance beam is. 2 layout step outs, and as I pointed out earlier, you really have to keep your shoulders and your hips very square, very straight with the balance beam. And she does just that. Dismount is a round-off double back. It's in tucked position. She doesn't have a lot of height and a lot of rotation, but she has just enough to get it around and not give any tenths of a point away on the landing.
We are now ready for our second competitor.
So as we wait for her score on balance beam, we're going over now to the high bar for her teammate, Nong Xiang. He scored a 9.75 on parallel bars, his first event, a 9.75 in pommel horse. The score on balance beam for his teammate Li Yifang was a 9.875. So the Chinese team doing very well. This is their final performance of the 6 performances that will go into their combined team score. The Chinese are always very aggressive. They go for the big moves. Here we go. Beautiful Ginger, as high as anyone in the world. Look at that. That's the...
Oh! No. As we said, they were all finishing on very risky events. It's no riskier event than high bar.
The move he was going for was the Gaylord 2, invented by Mitch Gaylord, who performed it back in 1983 for the first time. It's a double back over the bar, and look, he had his left hand on, and his right hand just bounced off. This will be a great angle to see it.
He had beautiful height. He was in a little bit too close to make this regrasp. You can see his arms are very bent as he makes contact, and he's dropping straight down. Very hard to get your grip on the bar and hang on.
Well, luckily he's okay. He'll complete the exercise from the point where he fell off. There's the inverted giant swing. That's a requirement. And here comes the dismount.
Beautiful laid out, full twisting double back. Had a step on the landing, and unfortunately that fall will cost him 5/10 of a point right off the top.
Well, by the nature of this format, the Chinese team right now looks to be a lock on 3rd place of the 3 teams that are in the finals, but you never know. As you mentioned, there are a lot of risky elements in these events that we're seeing in the final round of competition here. It doesn't seem to bother Li Yifang too much that his teammate didn't quite come through. It seems like the women have just been perfect here, and the men have kind of been a little sloppy today. What do you think
always
about
like that,
Kathy?
Bart.
Maybe you're right. Remember, her score was a 9.875. A 9.05 is the score for Nong Xiang. So their total will be a 58.075.
Finishing this evening with a 58.075.
A strong effort, but it's not going to be strong enough when you have people like this next young lady ready to go on the balance beam, Svetlana Kozlova.
And she's in a position to redeem herself as well. She had a fall from this event at the American Cup, and she knows she can do much better, and here's an opportunity to show it. Front tuck mount. Beautiful leaps, showing complete split in the air. Great amplitude. 2 layout step outs. Round off, layout step out. That's where she had the trouble at the American Cup, but not here.
It's been really exciting to see the Soviets all week long, or this Russian pair. They've been very outgoing, and it's really interesting to see that a few years back, the former Soviet team, they weren't allowed to hang around and mingle with the other athletes, and I think they're really enjoying the freedom now to be just like all the other performers here.
And we're certainly enjoying getting to know them better. Very nice performance so far, and I know she's feeling good about it. All she's got left is the dismount.
It's a long pass, round off back handspring double back. Oh, I know what that move was for. She was a little close to the balance beam.
Whoa.
She didn't look worried at all. She just had that little hop, and she is happy. That
She's
feels
happy to
really
get that
good.
over with,
Yes, and erase the tape in the pass. Here's the round off layout step out. As I said, she fell on this at the American Cup. And the dismount is a very nice pass. Round off back handspring. You can see she's hot to the side. Whoa, the entire pass.
Good
That's
thing
a
she
heart
was off to
thumper.
the side, because had she been a little more in line, she would have been pretty close to the end of that beam. The score will be a 9-7-7-5 for Svetlana Kozlova from the Russian Republic. She's pretty pleased with that performance. She's had a great time here. Everybody went out to Disney World the other day, and it's been pretty loose and pretty relaxed. Now this guy flew off this event the other day in the American Cup on a huge move.
Surprisingly.
He does a move at the beginning of the routine called a Kovacs. It's a double back over the bar. We've seen it before, but few do it with the power and explosiveness. Here it comes. Once again.
Exactly the way he did it at the American Cup. Oh. And she's disappointed as well. I thought he would try and come in too close this time, because that's exactly the way he did it at the American Cup. Just a little too far out.
See what happens here.
It was almost right on the money, but he's just a little bit too far out. He carries the somersault too far back. He needs to stall right up above the bar.
Well, that's close. Back on the bar now. Reverse heck was his second release move. Those are the inverted giant swings. Obviously, he lost a half a point for the fall. Watch this triple. Whew.
Oh, very nicely done. Oh, too bad for this pair. One inch, that's all he needed.
You know, getting some congratulations there from Yefim Furman, the coach at UCLA, former Soviet national. Boy, does he crank that triple. Well, we'll have the scores for the Russian pair, and remember, Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick are yet to come. We'll be back with more gymnastics. And as you see, the score for Dmitry Karbonyenko, a 9-3, 9-7-7-5 for Kozlova. So a 58-2-5 puts them currently in the lead, but the Americans are yet to go, and the birthday girl is yet to perform. Shannon Miller will be up on the floor exercise, and Kathy, as we mentioned, she flew off the floor and had a major deduction the other day in the American Cup. So Steve Nuno said he wanted to prove herself again today.
Bart, she actually had two falls and stepping out of bounds. It was just disastrous. And this is a great opportunity for her.
A chance to redeem.
Her first pass is where she had the trouble. Whip back through to a piked full twisting double back. It's a tucked. Whoa! Well, at least she stayed on her feet. She stepped out of bounds. That'll be a 1/10 of a point deduction, and of course, probably 2/10 of a point for the run backwards.
Remember that the Russian pair made mistakes, and Karbonyenko fell off the bar. The Chinese pair had some mistakes, so although the Americans can afford slight mistakes, they can't afford a major break at this point.
Here's where her second fall was. It's a full twisting double back. And she pulls it around. Nice work. Shannon has a pulled left hamstring that I know is bothering her on this event.
We asked her about it the other day, and she refused to let it be an excuse for her mistakes at the American Cup. The Americans, by the way, need an average of only 9.413 to win this 92 McDonald's International Mixed Pairs meet.
And they can do it. She's finishing with the pike double back. Very well done.
From the United States, Shannon Miller.
Oh, you know that feels good. The only trouble that she had throughout the entire routine was that first tumbling pass. Watch closely. It's a whip back. Right there is the whip back. She tumbles all the way through to a full twisting double back. It's in tucked position. And you'll see she just pulls it around a little bit too far. Her hips are too far back, and she steps back and out of bounds. And she worked hard for this one. During the American Cup, she fell short on this one as well, and she was not about to let that happen again. This was nicely done. Nice piked position in the air. Pulls it right around.
So for Shannon Miller, although a little bit of a shaky start at the beginning of the exercise, 2 to 3/10 of a point deduction, she came on strong. With the last 2 tumbling passes, we'll wait her score as her teammate Scott Keswick has a chance to give Shannon perhaps the best birthday present of all. If he can just hang on the high bar, they will win this title. Scott has been working several different release moves. I expect we'll see right here the Thomas, or the full over the bar to the Ginger. Here it comes. There's the full over the bar and the Ginger. Well done. Smartly played by Scott Keswick. The rest of the exercise for him is very easy, and he has a terrific triple back coming up. That's his dismount. He needs only a 9.1 to clinch it for Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick. Here it is.
What a way to finish.
And happy birthday to Shannon Miller. Scott Keswick pulls through and hits a strong high bar routine. That's going to be your winning pair in the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for the scores for our final 2 competitors and then present.
Here's a terrific angle to see the hand position on the release moves. That's the full over the bar. The second release move is a backflip with a half twist. Right on.
And this was truly the highlight of the entire routine. Triple back. Look at him flip. And spots that ground in a perfect landing.
Well, the score for Shannon Miller, a 9.775 on floor exercise, and Scott Keswick comes through with a 9.9. So with a score of 59.1, Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick are the 1992 McDonald's International Mixed Pairs Gymnastics champions. We'll be back with an interview with our winners and the final standings when we come back. And welcome back for the final wrap-up here in Tallahassee at the McDonald's International Mixed Pairs. There are our final results. Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick win over the Russians, who are almost a point behind in second place, and the Chinese behind them in third place. Well, I'm Bart Connor along with Kathy Johnson and our winners Scott Keswick and Shannon Miller. Scott, you said this format was a little different right from the beginning, and you were a little nervous, weren't you?
I was a little bit. I didn't do as well at the American Cup as I wanted to, and so I think that was a little more motivation to come in here and do a great job, and I think that's what made me nervous. But you know, you deal with pressure all the time, and I think Shannon and I both handled it well, and so I'm very happy.
Well, congratulations on a strong finish on the high bar.
Thank you.
And Shannon, just like Scott, the American Cup didn't go quite as you planned, but tonight was a different story. What were you thinking going into the floor exercise where you needed to redeem yourself?
Well, I wanted to do floor for my last event, and it kind of made it easier to get through the first 2 because I really wanted to redeem myself on the third. And I stepped out of bounds, but maybe I'd get some more difficulty in, and I won't have that problem.
Pretty good birthday present, huh?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to our winners, Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick, the 1992 McDonald's International Mixed Pairs champions. The McDonald's International Mixed Pairs Gymnastics Championship has been brought to you by McDonald's. What you want is what you get at McDonald's today. Congratulations once again to our winners, Shannon Miller and Scott Keswick. For Kathy Johnson, I'm Bart Connor. Thanks for joining us here in Tallahassee. We'll see you next time.